Thank you, Ashley. And thank you, Diane. And good morning and welcome to those of you who are joining us up online today. Although last week you were told that I was visiting my parole officer in California, by some people, that wasn't quite what I was doing. But I want to share with you a little bit about what I was doing and a reflection upon that. I had the invitation from a family to preside at the Celebration of Life service for a woman who was my music director for almost 10 years. For the first 8 years, we were in one ministry, and she moved away and then came back, and another couple years in my second ministry in California. She played the piano and the organ. Her daughter, Joan, was our choir director, and her other daughter, Lori, was our congregational song leader. So between the three of them, there was this powerhouse of music every single Sunday. So, of course, the memorial service had to be a very similar extravaganza of music. And I looked at the outline, and I'm telling you, Ashley, in case you want to prepare for your memorial service early, I have the outline, and it's big, okay? We had one choir piece, two duets, one solo, and, of course, congregational singing. There was 5 pieces of music in this memorial service. It was like, whoa. And I know you're going to find this hard to believe. They didn't ask me to sing. I know. It's just like, what were they thinking? So, as I saw the order of service a couple days before I left, I saw the song that the choir was going to sing, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's called The New 23rd. It's an anthem on the 23rd Psalm. And I thought, that choir used to sing that, a lot. It was their theme song, if you will. And I was frustrated because I couldn't think of the song. Obviously the words, I got that. It was the 23rd Psalm. But I just couldn't remember how it went, even though it was so familiar to me. So we come into the memorial service. Lots of people are, milling around and stuff. And I had to laugh because I've really gotten Oklahoma. In Oklahoma, when they do a memorial service, they process the family. It's like a wedding, in case you hadn't noticed that. The family stays in the back, and then they present. Not California, everybody's just sat down, sit wherever you want. And I was like, what's up with you people? We need to be processing or something. So finally, I kind of figured it out, and I got down, I sat down on my seat, and the choir gets up to stand. They stand up to sing, and they hit that first note. And it was so amazing. Because it wasn't just that I remembered the song because I heard the music. I heard the start of the music. It was like I was sitting there watching a freight train of memories go through my life. This was 30 years ago that I was with a lot of these people, and at least 20-something years ago since we were together and they were singing together. And it was so amazing. And it wasn't just the song or the places, but it was the people who were no longer on this life plane that used to be in the choir, and all of this amazing stuff happening. So I was just sitting there in kind of awe how one simple note and one simple song, one simple sound brought this huge wellspring of all these memories. So we went through the service, and afterwards they had a little gathering, and a person came up to me and said, oh my gosh, Marianne, when I heard your voice, I thought to myself, everything's going to be okay. And I thought, well, thank you for the compliment, but 10 people at least told me the very same thing. And all of a sudden I stepped back and I said, what is the power of our voice? What is the power of the sound? It isn't just simply the voice or the voice tone. It brings with it memories and experiences, because once after they said that to me, once I heard your voice, And I remember the time, da-da-da, fill in the blank. Oh, after I heard your voice, I looked and I thought, oh my gosh, that's Marianne. And it was memory after memory after memory that kept filling the conversation. So it's really made me pause and ponder this whole idea of sound and of voice. Because I think we tend to think of it as simply a word that we say. And I would like to suggest to you that sound is actually a cacophony of memories and feelings and images. Much like we talked about some weeks ago, talking about taking a picture. And it's so difficult to step back from a picture and critique its craft, because what you see is the picture, but all the memories that come with it. The moment the picture was snapped, who you were standing with, who took the picture, what was going on around you, why you wanted to take that particular picture. And if you're going to put it like in a competition or in a magazine or something, you have to step back from that and say, is it in focus? Is it the right size? Did I do all the right technique? And it's very, very difficult. So what I'm saying to you too is that sound has that those same attributes, that it's very difficult for us when we hear a sound of something familiar, someone's voice, how difficult it is to disconnect it from the images and the impressions and the feelings that came with it. And I shared with you a couple weeks ago how I stumbled on a voice message from my mom right before she died, and how in that instant it was just as if she was alive. I could pick up the phone and call her even though I knew that she wasn't. And then I sort of kind of went down a bunny trail with that. Think of sonar and sonograms. Here's this ping that goes out like in sonar in a submarine. It goes out and hits against an image. And what comes back is that vibration. So sound isn't just a vibration. It is the sum total of the memories and the feelings and the attitudes that we hear when we hear a sound, a familiar song, when we hear someone's voice, when we speak ourselves. And I thought about how comforting it was for all of them and for me in that moment. How comforting it is to hear someone's voice we haven't heard in a long time, a song that we haven't heard in a long time. And it stays with us. And then I got to thinking about El Paso and Dayton. They heard sounds too, didn't they? And they heard sounds that were scary and frightening. And if I couldn't let go of a sound from 30 years ago that was wonderful, exciting, and joyous, how difficult will it be for those people to let go of a sound that was frightening and scary and life-threatening? See, this sound quality isn't about the sound at all, is it? It's about all the feelings and the memories that come around with it. So here now we have this interesting polarity. The sounds that we love and the sounds that feel good and the sounds that bring up good emotions and the sounds that bring up sadness and sorrow and suffering and grief. I don't think we give enough credit or depth to an understanding of post-traumatic syndrome because of the fact that it's a sound. It's not just an event, it's a sound. And this is, I thought about this too. Like I said, I kind of went down a rabbit hole with this and really started to think about the effects of this. When I was in high school and college, I loved to, I was studying Western Europe and the World Wars and all of that kind of stuff. And in the movies, the sound that the sirens make, our sirens don't make that sound. The first time I was in Western Europe myself, okay, I did not live through the war. I have only seen it in movies, okay? I heard that sound and I thought the Gestapo is coming after us now. How embedded is that sound? The sound of fear and the sound of pain and the sound of uncertainty and fright. what's in the middle? That's the question. What's in the middle? These are the opposite sides. And I thought to myself, we can say silence, but unfortunately, when we think of silence, we think about a quiet place. We don't really think about true silence because our ears are attuned to what we're not hearing. We're not hearing the traffic right now. We're not hearing a plane overhead, even though there might be. So this idea of silence, we've got to come into an understanding that this is beyond sensory. Silence is the source of sound. It's a vibrational quality that contains all. This is the essence of spirit and God. And if we're ever going to heal these ends, especially the ends that are so difficult, coming back into silence is the only place we can heal that vibration, because we've got to shift it somehow. And we all know how very, very difficult that is. We struggle with healing of our past. We struggle with healing of our present. We struggle with hearing the sounds and the voices in our heads that don't support us, that don't love us, that don't care about us, even though we may never have heard them from another human being. It's our own inner critic, okay? How do we come back to this place of silence? Unity teaches, one of the basic tenets of unity is the power of the spoken word. This ability that we have to hurt or to heal through our words. But after I've sort of pondered this idea of the sound and the quality of the voice and the memories and the messages that come up with sounds, I began to think that we need to step up our game a little bit as human beings. It's not just the words we say, as powerful and maybe as affirming as they are. We've got to move into a place where we consciously, intentionally understand that the sum total of our being is creating memories that can hurt or heal. It's creating feelings that can hurt or heal. It's creating images that can hurt or heal. And that if we're ever truly to heal, we've got to come back into that center place before we start saying the power of the spoken word. Yes, it's true. Yes, what we think about and how we speak begins to inform our world. But you see, what happens is, without coming from the well, it's still coming from the head. We got to go deeper into the well and bring up the sound that has no sound. We've got to bring up the memories that have no pictures. We've got to bring up the images that are not alive. And our dualistic mind struggles with that. Our quote today on our Facebook 90-day challenge, if you've been walking that path with us, was from Rumi. And he said, our soul has ears to hear what our mind cannot understand. Our soul has ears to hear what our mind cannot understand. You and I, when we get in our mind, we get into dualism. Yes, but, left, right, black, white, up, down, sort of legalistic and not this way. And that's a part of the puzzle. Yes, I understand that. But really, true healing and long-time healing is going to come when we're willing to stand at the well and know that there is no sound, that there is only one. It's beyond the depths that we must plumb to bring up into our life. And folks, quite frankly, as the world turns, it's getting harder and harder to do. It's getting harder and harder to do. The time of real, true silence for probably all of us, myself included, gets thinner and thinner and thinner. Because of the distractions of the world, because of my own inner, working, I think, well, I've sat here for 30 seconds. Wow, it's time to go now. And, it's that working because we are a product of our society, and our society has speeded up. And so what happens, even in the best of intentions, we too have speeded up. It might just be not as much as some, but the reality is we all are experiencing that speeding up. And if not, we're experiencing it by people passing us by, right? People are going by us, and it's like, I'm going to slow down, and people are like, well, fine, but we're passing you by. And the next thing you know is you buy a new television that has 4 remote controls, and you don't know how to use any of them. It's passing you by, whether you want it to or not. And it's unsettling, isn't it? It's really unsettling. It's like, I remember standing in the Apple store one time in front of all these computers, and a guy that was about my own age was standing there too, and this kid was going on, and he was like, duh, and he was working it, and the guy we looked at each other, and he said, but what do you do with it? How do you work on it? And the kid said, work on it? No, man, you don't understand. You get the internet and you play games, and he goes, I want to work on it. See, it's passing us by. How many of you have banking on your phone? See, it's passing you, whether you like it or not, So what I'm trying to say is, we are experiencing, whether we like it or not, an increase of the mobility of the world. We're experiencing an increase of the pace of the world. We're increasing, and we're struggling even to just keep up. So, if that's true, then how do we take this time to go into the depths? And so, I was playing with that last night as I was going to bed. I thought, there's not a connecting link here for me. I'm not getting, I want to make this bridge between, the good memories and the good sounds and the bad sounds. How do we come into the center, into healing, the power of our spoken word, drawing it up from a wellspring that takes time and meditation? And I got up this morning and I read an article from one of the spiritual pages that I read. Many of you that are in the artistic life class, we also have it. And I thought it was so beautiful, I put it in the program for you. And I thought it was so beautiful because it doesn't require you to sit still for an hour. It asks you some questions. It asks you for some vision, okay? It asks you to hear. It asks you to taste. It asks you to feel. It asks you to connect with nature. It asks you to go down deep and listen. Now, look at the first one. What does a flower sound like as it first breaks through the soil of the newly warmed earth? What is that sound? Wow. Those of you who are gardeners go, I get that. Yeah, I know that sound. This one was the one that I loved, and I worked with that. I meditated on it this morning. What is the noise a sea turtle makes as it slides its fin through the salty water of the ocean depth? Now, I've never seen a sea turtle in an ocean. I've seen them at the zoo. But I know that a sea turtle, a huge mammoth animal, very slowly crawls on its belly to the edge of the ocean, and what does it do? It waits for the tide. It doesn't keep forcing itself. It waits for the tide to come pick it up. And suddenly, without much effort at all, that huge sea turtle swims free. And you've seen it on National Geographic. So what I loved about this, and one is on music, and one is, listen to the one on your body. This one, I have a love-hate relationship with, okay? It says, do you listen for the song your own body sings as it grows older? Its skin stretching to make room for all the wisdom contained within. I need a little work on that one. I love that. Our bodies are stretching for all the wisdom that is coming in. This is what I mean about maybe what I'm going to call a new kind of meditation. It's going to require you to pick up the silence from the sounds. It's going to require you to visualize what is a sea turtle, what is a flower coming up through the ground, what is aging, what is music, what is all of the different things, and the dog putting its paw on your lap and looking up for love and attention. And I just found that I thought, that encapsulates for me what I guess I'm trying to say is somehow when we get in that center point, letting go of our head and that dualistic thought, well, this is good or this is bad, to be in that center place where we can speak the word of depth, speak the word of power, but it doesn't come from our head, it doesn't even come from our heart. It comes from the soul's knowing of the depth. And in the depth comes the awareness that we are one. We're all pulling from that same depth. It's a communion, if you will, of community. And I love that phrase too. It's this community that is having communion because we're reaching into the depth. We're reaching deeper down than we've ever had to reach before, because before it was like it affected those people or somewhere out there, or we never heard about it. And now it's just like right in our face constantly. And the struggle that we have is staying out of the dualistic sounds and thinking to get into the singular sound and the singular thinking that calls us to be something different in the world. We're morphing, we're changing, even as the world is morphing and changing. And I invite you to take that little handout. Her website is on there if you're at all interested. She puts out a daily spiritual blessing kind of thing that I've really enjoyed over the last couple years. But I thought to myself how very powerful it is that she captured that idea that we have to listen, not with our ears anymore. Like Rumi says, we got to start listening with the soul of us. We have to hear the cries of people with the soul and heart, not with the head. And it isn't going to be about legislation first. It's going to be about the time when we can reach out heart to heart, to appreciate and understand other people's journey, make way and make space for that deep work of healing. And the only way we can do that is by modeling it ourselves. So it's an interesting thought. How is sound, and how does it affect you? A singular song of person's voice, a song, a sound that you hear when the car drives in, or the dog comes running to the door, or a cardinal flies overhead. What are those sounds, and how do they elicit memories and feelings and things in your life that are good? And how do we reach into those sounds that hurt so bad that it's like we can't really even touch them, that we have to step back to that center place, dig deep in the well. Think about that sea turtle as he just swims kind of free. Think about that beautiful flower coming up through the warm earth, and knowing that we are always connected to that one great life, one community, one communion together. Thank you, and God bless.